Good evening, I'm Brandon Reid, and today I'm going to be showing you my short film. The concept for my short film is it's going to be about a young man who seeks help through therapy. He wants to talk about his late mother who died of an overdose, and the recent passing of his father, who was abusive to him when he was younger. We're going to be guided through the young man's thoughts through the therapist, and she's going to try and help him help him to battle his inner demons. My inspiration for this was one of my favourite artists called NF. I kind of got the idea from two of his songs that are favourites of mine, them being Therapy Session and How Could You Leave Us. Therapy Session is about his fans that come to his shows, and they're basically telling him that they feel what he feels. They've had really rough childhoods, and some of their parents are quite abusive. And then the second one that I've kind of based it towards is How Could You Leave Us, which is about his mother who died of an overdose when he was a child. Some of my favourite lyrics I put here on the board, describing how he feels towards his mum and how he felt towards the fans. That's the inspiration part. I think that's my audience, right? For my audience, my primary audience is going to be 16 plus. I looked up what NF's fan base is, and everything I looked at said most of his fans are this age. So I thought, if I'm kind of basing it around his life, it would be mainly aimed towards his fans and his age group. My secondary audience is movie fans that kind of enjoy experimental films, good visuals and kind of like films you see at film festivals. It could also aim toward people that can kind of feel what message I'm trying to send, like the whole parents and rough childhood kind of thing. As for the visuals, during the scenes where the therapist and the young man are going to be sat facing and having conversations, I want it to be in a dark room, with backlighting, so it casts a shadow over their faces to kind of give a bit of a mystery. And then the scenes where we're going to be guided through the boy's thoughts and emotions, they're going to be in black and white. This is for two reasons. One, to show the audience that what's happening on screen isn't what's happening in the present, it's memories. And the other one is it kind of shows how the man's feeling. He's feeling really broken and hollow inside about these emotions. I also plan on using a lot low lighting for most of it, and also a lot of negative space for the ones about his emotions. The core problems that I'm trying to solve for the short film is mental health and how having a rough childhood can greatly impact a person later on in life. I also wanted to do this because it gives me another opportunity to explore how men's mental health is heavily overlooked. I'm going to achieve this by, normally there's the cliche where the man helps save the woman, but I'm going to flip it to make it more in with the times, and it will be the woman helping the man. This just helps avoid the whole cliche. Now, as for my research, I will be researching more heavily into the songs and lyrics by NF, because a lot of his songs are more onto this kind of topic. I'm also going to be looking at other movies and directors that use the same kind of themes. That will be a good help to see comparisons between them. And obviously there's other artists that are very similar to NF, and they've had kind of the same childhood as them. So I'm going to look in towards more of them to help further what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to find directors that created NF music videos because his music videos are kind of the same style I want to go for in the short film. So it would be good to research how they did it and what they were thinking about when they done it. Resources. I have my fellow classmates who are willing to help me. They said they're willing to help me operate cameras if I need to, lighting, audio and so on. I've already asked some of my friends in performing arts if they will act for me, because I know some of them are really good actors, and they said they'll be happy to. As for equipment, obviously I'll need to book in advance. So like cameras and mics and all that. I'm also going to make sure I write down the schedule so I know what equipment I need for that certain day. Any questions?
Hey, thank you, Brandon. Do you want to start with the questions, Freddie? You have any? I've got one if you want me to start off.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So you spoke clearly about the visuals and what they will mean, but I didn't hear much about the narrative. So could you almost give me a breakdown of what happens, almost like beginning, middle, end, or whatever narrative device you're using?
Okay. In the beginning, it's going to feel like the man can't trust. He doesn't trust anyone. He feels broken inside. He feels pretty much helpless. That's why he's seeking therapy. And obviously it will start with the therapist and the man having the conversation, and it's going to go towards the therapist being in his head, and she's going to walk around his head and his emotions, and she'll keep going, and eventually you'll see how his father was abusive, see how his mother passing affected him and how that affected the relationship even more between the father and the son. You also see further into the relationship how the son looked up to his mother and just really wanted one of his parents to fully care about him, but she couldn't do it because of her addiction. Then eventually towards the end it will be the therapist will come face to face with the inner demons that he's facing, and she'll find a version of him that's inside of him that feels really weak, and she's going to convince him to avoid these demons and stand against them. And then towards the end it will be he feels better about himself, it's not as bad as it used to, and so obviously visually I said I wanted to cast a shadow to kind of reflect how he's feeling. And then towards the end, you'll be able to see his face better to show that he's now basically feels better mentally. That's kind of the narrative.
Okay, thank you. Brilliant.
Quite like the whole sort of flashback in black and white. It's quite nice. And I do quite like the whole sort of gloomy and dark tone to it. But you said the film's going to be for experimental fans.
Yeah.
But what do you mean by experimental? Is it going to be experimental lighting techniques, camera, editing? What will it be?
I suppose it would be more kind of experimental camera techniques and lighting. I know one thing that I forgot to add to this presentation was I really wanted to try and use the Dutch angle quite a bit, because obviously I know that's what they use to give quite an eerie effect. I kind of want to use that quite a bit in it. But yeah, I suppose it'd be more experimental, camera techniques and lighting.
Okay. There's a really interesting shot, special shot. If you're able to pull it off, and you've got the equipment to do so, it's the dolly zoom, aka vertigo shot. What else is it known as? Jaws shot.
Contra zoom, isn't it?
Contra zoom, that's the one. So perhaps that's something you could consider.
Yeah.
And that shot is a moment of realisation. So perhaps there's somewhere in your narrative where your main character realises something is seriously wrong, Or
Yeah.
it could be the protagonist, the female character,
Right.
to finally realise that, oh, crikey, he's actually pretty bad,
Yeah.
And I think your research really helped you identify your target audience specifically, because you've noted it's 16 plus.
Yeah.
That's a broad. So it's someone who's 94 going to be watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's it from me.
Yeah, and I think also from your research, I think you need to identify how your audience can relate to it.
Right.
You know, because if it's a young man, say your age group 16 to 20,
Yeah.
how much trauma are you going to, you know, flash on screen? How much of that are you going to reveal? You know.
Cool. Thank you very much, Brandon.